With that in mind, please mute yourself and turn off your camera if you don't want to be part of any of the recording. So yeah, thank you very much for the wonderful introduction. As many of you know, my name is Tom Langston. It also says it on screen and probably on my video window as well. So you can't really get around the fact that is my name. It's Thursday and we are doing, as Mike says, creating interactive content using Moodle and H5P. So what we've done with this session today is start off in PowerPoint to explain one or two things about H5P. But what I thought would be quite beneficial is for people to get hands-on and get some experience of using H5P. So I've got a little activity that we're going to be doing. I will paste very quickly into the chat now the Moodle site for you to follow along with in a moment. Within this site, it is self-enroll, so you'll have to click the link, choose Enroll Me. If you have any problems, please put them in the chat and Mike will try and help you where he can as we go through the first section. So start by asking the question, what is H5P? And it literally only stands for HTML5 Publisher, which is a good thing in this day and age because we all have to use the internet. It has become a much bigger part of our lives than it ever used to. Way back in the 90s, if you wanted to make a website, you had to know code, unless you used Dreamweaver. And I think that's the point Mike starts to feel a little bit ill again. It wasn't as easy as it is today. Now, again, there is still all that very clever code that, trust me, I do not understand either. What H5P does is allow us to very simply use an interface to create something that's very clever behind the scenes. So that's what H5P stands for. As I say, what it does is helps us create a range of activities. Now, H5P is a standalone product. You can see their own website at h5p.org, which I think I get to in another slide. But essentially, we have it integrated very nicely within Moodle. And if you're using it within Moodle, what you will see, and again, I always do the pointing I will do in class. I use my mouse. It is listed at the moment as interactive content. And it's a little black square that says H5P. Don't believe me? There you go. A little black square that says H5P. When we upgrade over the summer, it may very well change to look more like this, which will be a little blue square with actually H5P to make it even more obvious as to what it is. But either interactive content as a choice or H5P, and that's how you'd find it within Moodle. And as I mentioned, h5p.org, they're an organization that have created these sort of tools for people to use for free. There is no charge. They make their money on hosting, which I'm not going to go into because we don't need to worry about that. But just to say that it won't suddenly become a charged account. It won't suddenly mean that we have to start paying for this. They've done this for people to use freely and availably, and they make their money elsewhere from a different side of the product. Now, although you can use h5p.org to create resources, we'd rather you did it in Moodle, and so would they, which is, again, going back to where they make their money. If you start making things on h5p.org, hosting it there, and having a lot of traffic, basically a lot of people using that resource because you can move it around and embed it in other places, what they'll do is take it down and probably send you an email saying, we offer a service where you can host it for X amount of a month. We do that within Moodle, so you don't have to pay for it. What that means is when you go to Moodle and choose H5P as an activity, what you will have is this little kind of breakdown of the fact there are 43 different bits of content that you can create within H5P. Now, some of those bits of content are very similar to other bits of content. So, for instance, they do one called flashcards. They also do one called dialogue cards. And there is a third option that I can't remember the name of. But essentially, they're all the same thing, where you have an image or a piece of text. So again, in their example, they have like a picture of blueberries. They have arandana thulis. And they have that as an audio button. And you would I'd like to say what I used to do at school, where you'd have a postcard from W.H. Smith, you'd write a question on one side, you turn it over, and there's the answer, and it's a revision tool. That's what that does. It was my sister, it wasn't me. What that does is, again, allow images, audio, and it has a turnover button, and then it gives you the answer, or gives the student the answer that you've created for them. And like I say, that is, I think, what they class as a dialogue card. I'd have called it a flashcard, but their flashcards are, you have the image. I'm not 100% sure about audio in that one, but there's definitely an image. But there is a sort of a free text box, and it sort of says, I'm thinking of description, but it would be a stringed instrument. And there you'd have a picture of a guitar, and you'd type in guitar, and it would say, yeah, you got that right. So again, it's the same tool, just presented ever so slightly differently. So while there are 43 different bits of content, maybe a third are very similar to other bits of content in there. However, the one that we're going to go over today, I think is one of the most valuable. But as you can see, I only got down to F before I ran out of space on my PowerPoint slide to show you that there is a whole range of other tools available. The two big ones I'd like to highlight here, which we're not going to worry about today, are the column, maybe three: course presentation and branching scenario. The column, in and of itself, doesn't actually do anything. What it does is allow you to create a drag and drop with an essay question and a multiple hotspot, as well as an arithmetic quiz, all within one space. Otherwise, you'd have to create them as 4 separate resources. So a column doesn't create anything in particular. What it allows you to do is congregate other H5P activities within it. So it's basically a sort of a framework for creating the content rather than the actual content itself. The other one is course presentation, and this appears a little like a PowerPoint. Now, as far as I can find yet, you can't import a PowerPoint to it, but essentially you're able to make a more structured version of the column. They'd go through the slides. You can have images, activities, videos, different tasks that you might set up within it, and it would appear, as I say, similar to a PowerPoint. Now, I wouldn't actually necessarily either use it as a PowerPoint tool like presentation. I wouldn't do it for what I'm doing today. It is very much a knowledge check activity. And at that point, I think maybe if I ask Mike to say very quickly about the sort of the Moodle theme, Moodle template ideas that he's been talking about this week, and the importance of knowledge checks.
Certainly. So if you've been to our using the Moodle template sessions, we have one left, which is tomorrow, and the recordings are available. We've taken you through the standard layout of a week within the template for distance delivery. The first section is dedicated to guided self-study. So the students are working on their own. They're working through recorded lecture materials and taught sessions, looking at reading lists, and they're acquiring all that knowledge on their own. So it's really important that you check the students' knowledge to make sure they've done what you've asked them to do, and that they've got to the required level. Knowledge checks also help spot gaps in students' knowledge, and if there are enough of those across the course, it's probably worth doing a recap session to fill in those gaps. So there are a number of ways you can do knowledge checks, but H5P is very good in that you can embed it within other resources. So you could, we very much recommend that you break your lecture materials down into 5 to 10 minute chunks, and then deliver those chunks via Moodle books on each of the pages. So what you could do is set a 10-minute video followed by one of these H5P activities. So you could have a drag and drop question, or let's have a look at the options we've got here. Find the hotspot question, just to test the student's knowledge. So it's not something in that instance that you formally need the score for, but it's just so students to test whether they've actually acquired that knowledge. So you can also do that in a new package we'll have available soon called Panopto. You can add questions within videos. But the beauty of H5P is it's so flexible. You can put those knowledge check questions, individual questions, wherever you want to. So yeah, it's another way of doing a knowledge check.
And the last one from that screen there at the very back is the branching scenario. And again, if any of you have used Moodle to any kind of sort of depth and tried some of the more advanced features. One of those features is the Moodle lesson tool, and essentially they do the same thing. Arguably, H5P just looks nicer. What the branching tool does is, as it says, it allows you to create a narrative that splits at certain points to give the decisions to people. Now, again, you don't have to have it spread far and wide. You can sort of bring it around, and if you get a wrong answer, stop at that point and bring them in and explain why that answer was wrong, and then follow on a narrative path. You'll notice on the screen here it says details next to each bit. If you click that details button when you're using H5P, you can also see the option to view a tutorial and view an example of that resource, not created by us, but created by H5P. It's on their website. But the branching scenario example they have is a series of videos of a healthcare professional. They're fed the information from the case file. They then watch the videos. They are given questions about what should you do in this situation. You make the decision, and it takes you through that experience of helping and dealing with a healthcare situation. Another example that they use within that website is to kind of sort of clump learning. So again, it's all about art history, but what they do is break sections down into like the Renaissance and the Baroque period or whatever it might be. And so you can go through each one section. So they all come under the umbrella of art history, but each section is broken into its own sort of strand, its own branch from the kind of the lesson. So again, the course presentation does something a little similarly as well. It really is dynamic to what you want to do. And again, I think what we've said all through this conference, hopefully, and if you haven't heard it yet, we are happy to help with this going forward. This is not your only chance today to know everything there is to know about any of this. We do training sessions outside of the conference, but you can also just drop us an email and ask for some help. And again, either Mike will refer you to me, or I might refer you to Mike, depending on the question, or the rest of the team, and we can try and help create resources that fit for you to what you need to do. So again, I'm not going to go through any other sort of resources of H5P in that respect today. What we're going to look at is the interactive video elements. Like Mike says, Panopto offers some kind of feature of this as well. I believe that after our session, there is a content capture example going on, and hopefully they'll cover some ideas, but obviously I don't know the content of it as yet. But we will have guidance on using Panopto going forward. But the nice bit here is if you need to create something right now, you can take a YouTube video, take a video you may have on your computer, and add it in to H5P into the interactive video section. So from the little animation that you should be seeing play out, if we take the link from the chat, you will see, get back to it, you'll see a screen that says enroll me. You click the enroll me button at the very bottom, the little blue square, and then you'll be into the site and we're able to do this activity together. So that is the PowerPoint. And as if by magic, here is the Moodle site that you should now be able to get to. So within this site, there is the Toy Story 4 teaser trailer. If I click on that, it'll load up the YouTube video Toy Story teaser trailer. So I'm going to take this link and I'm going to copy it. What I'm now going to do, and again, feel free to follow along, and I will try and do this a little slower as requested from the previous session to give you a chance to catch up and make sure you're doing the same thing. So you don't have to use the Toy Story 4 trailer. You can use any video you like. I just obviously put it there to make it quicker for everyone. So you should, when you log into this site, have the editing button. And for those that have used Moodle before and have seen this before, you click the editing button and you get up these options here. Now, every topic space that you create will have add an activity or resource. So I am going to create in the top space. If you'd like to use topic 1 or 2, then it'll kind of keep everything else that's done underneath this, but I'll do it in the top space here. So I'm going to do add an activity or resource. Within that list, we have all the activities, all the resources. I'm going to come to the book resource in a minute and demonstrate what Mike was talking about, the creating an activity where you may throw in the H5P into your Moodle book. But for now, I'm going to choose interactive content and then select add. I see Mike's put a question about copyright. Maybe there's someone asked you that directly because I can't see it in the chat. The other bit with this from David Sharon's session earlier in the week is, where possible, use a ticked, as Mike says, use a ticked reputable source. The other side of that is, if you're using a YouTube video and embedding it in the site through this, you're not actually downloading a copy of it. You're not officially breaking copyright, because if this video was taken down, unfortunately your content would break because it would have nothing. It's basically referencing this. It is not downloading it and rebroadcasting it. It's kind of like a tunnel, essentially, looking through a very bad kaleidoscope. More a telescope. That would have been a better analogy, right? Kaleidoscopes just make things all colourful. Do you have anything quickly to say on that, as I know you were hosting David's session?
I'd say go and have a look at the recording of Dave's session, because it was really useful. It's a really good clarification of copyright in a load of context. As I say, that was clarified for me that you can embed from YouTube as long as you go from a verified official channel. I was trying to think of some other examples of that. He lists a number of good sources for images. That always comes up. Where can I get good images from? That was covered in that session. Yes, I can't remember much more because it's only 9:20, but please go to that session. It's on the festival website.
The joy of recording things.
Yeah.
The session was copyright for content capture, I believe, something like that. It was Tuesday, so if you look at the Tuesday thing, I think we've already added the video into the again, the festival website, and the presenter was David Sharon, which is Sherren, not the Sharon bit.
I'll go and grab the link and drop it in the chat.
Thank you very much. I'll carry on. So I've added H5P. Now, one of the new features within Moodle itself is we now have this expected study time. So if something is going to appear within the topic space, what you can do is set how long this activity is going to take. So I say this is going to take them no more than 10 minutes. It's a 2-minute video with a couple of questions inside it, so it's going to take them no more than 10 minutes. However, if you're creating your lecture within a Moodle book with some activities, you may set the book to be 2 hours. But what you could then do, as I'll demonstrate in a minute, is on each kind of chapter that you create within that book, maybe say this activity will take 10 minutes, this is 5, this one's 25 minutes, so that, again, the student can break down their learning and go, I've got time for this, I haven't got time for that, but I definitely need to do that later. And thank you, Mike. It's in the chat now. Thank you, Hannah. Yeah. So we're doing the interactive video today. If you'd like to follow along with me, again, feel free to play around with H5P in this site and do whatever you like. But if you'd like to follow me today, if you click details, you'll see what I mean, where it comes up with the content demo option. But I am just going to click use. The first step, and again, very nicely, it does take you through this step by step. If after today you've forgotten something, like I always do, you can, as Mike mentioned earlier, use the tutorial, which will, again, take you through the step by steps in a very, very simple fashion and tell you which bits to change to make things work sometimes. One of the ones that's slightly convoluted in this is kind of the drag and drop exercise, and there are a few kind of bizarre ways of having to create it, but essentially you do it a couple of times, you work out those quirks, and again, that tutorial helped me learn how to do those. I just like, before I carry on, from the session we gave yesterday, one of the bits I mentioned at the end is just that, is sometimes we see a system and it seems glossy when someone shows it to you. Every system has its foibles. There is always something wrong with something somewhere down the line. What you need to do is get comfortable with those foibles, get comfortable with the little bits and the idiosyncrasy of how it might work. Stop using big words. And just find out what works for you. So in this case, I'm going to click add a video, and I could upload a video file if I had one on my computer, or in this case, I've got my Toy Story 4 link. I paste that in, and there it is. So I insert it. Now to go back to that copyright information, I have an option here to edit copyright. So what I can do is say Toy Story 4 trailer, author Disney Pixar, year Toy Story 4 is 2018, 2019. I'll say 2019. I could add a link in there. Pixar.com, and it is copyright material. So the license is copyright, and there you go. So I've added in all the copyright information relating to that video, so that again, if a student wants to know about it, yes, thank you, Tom. His children watch it every 4 days. I think I mentioned the first time we did this session. For those who now have Disney Plus, how many times have you seen Toy Story 4 and since Saturday Frozen 2? Every day at the moment, yes. I now click to my next step, which is adding the interactions. So what happens is the video loads into the frame, and I can see the content of that, and I've got the play button there. Also, I have the play button here. You have other options which we don't need to worry about down the bottom, but basically you can add bookmarks, and you can also, I believe, choose how fast it is. Yeah. So you can speed up or slow down the rate of the video. The bits that make this really kind of interesting are along the top here. And these are all the different interactions. Now, again, I'm not going to have time to show you what each of these do, but I'll go over a couple. I'll show you what they all are, and then I'll add a few into the video to show you how it works. And then it's, again, down to you to decide what you might like. And again, if you need help, just ask. That is absolutely fine. So from left to right, the first one is a label. Basically, you add a box of text over the video. Text itself allows you to write text directly onto the video. Again, that could get lost depending on the colors of that video. Again, if you use black text, then suddenly it's a night scene, you're not going to read the words, whereas within a label, it'll put it with a background to it. So you'd lose some of the video that you can see, but you definitely see the text. You can add a table, so you can, again, put tabular data in there. For instance, you may be doing a marketing video where you want to add in some extra data and explain something that way. You can add a link. So again, you can add it to, in this case, I could add a link to Pixar so that you could go and see whatever else other films Pixar have made and how they, how they work. But you could link off to any other resources. Again, I see Hannah's name in there from the library. If you're doing a video, what you could do is put a link in to like referencing at ports.ac.uk. So you're then providing people the further materials, Anne as well. Good morning, Anne. Further details towards the support materials that you may have produced that again work with the video. An image, add an image over the top should you need to. Statements, these are where you put a title and create some statements. One of those statements will be true. The student has to select the statement that's true, and again you can then add other statements that would appear after that statement. So they can build up basically a picture of information, and I'll add one of those in a moment to show you exactly what I mean. The next one along is a single choice set, basically a single choice of questions that you can use. You can add some multiple choice questions as well. True or false questions. Fill in the blanks. Again, I'll add one of these as well because I think they're quite useful to know. There is also, this is a H5P resource as on its own, just a fill in the blanks exercise. But what I really like is that they've pulled some of those in and allow you to do them on other activities like this video. So the fill in the blanks, you give them a paragraph of text where they have to write in the correct words. Have a drag and drop exercise. Mark the word is kind of the inverse version of fill in the blanks. So all the paragraph is there, but you might sort of have it, in this case, please select all of the Toy Story characters. So you have to click through all the names of the characters that appear in this film. Drag the text. Crossroads. Crossroads, apart from being a bad Britney film, but a good Ralph Macchio film, is a bit where you can get people to make a decision that takes you to other parts of the video. Now, if you wanted to get very convoluted and spend hours and hours of time doing this, what you could do would be have a choose your own adventure in video form. Now, the video watched on its own makes no sense because it jumps around a weird and wonderful timeline, almost like a Christopher Nolan film. What you could do would be at any point in that video, add a crossroads. So it says, you get to a door, you want to go left or right. So you filmed two different scenarios, going left and going right. When you click on the crossroads option of going left or right, it'll take you to that different point in the video. Obviously, you need to have a very structured timeline of where the jumps would be, but essentially you can get it to, if I click it here, you can choose where it would go. So you have choice there, it goes to this point, you have another choice there, and it goes to that point. And again, you can add more choices, so you can have more than two options. But essentially, it's a very good way of getting them to go through video. So again, if you've got a full hour lecture, like Mike said, we recommend that you make these, when you're producing new videos, make them 5 to 10 minutes so they're shorter. If you did happen to have an old recording of one of your previous lectures before you all got locked down, what you could do is put that in here and have a crossroads at the beginning. And so what you do is you jump to the sections so the student doesn't have to watch the video, but they can jump around each topic within that video. So you have an hour video, but they can watch it in individual chunks. So you could use that to, again, speed up some resources that you may already have until you can maybe create shorter videos, which again are then easier to update going forward as well. And a navigation hotspot. So that's basically like a crossroads, but it's a single point in time. So you could say, rather than saying, do you want to go to here or here, it's like if you know this, skip straight to this section, and then they click the hotspot, and it takes them to that part of the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the label. I have the display time, so it's going to stay on screen for, at the moment, 10 seconds. Now, what you can also do is have it pause the video. If with something like a label, they have to manually click to start the video again. So you may not want to pause the video, but again, 10 seconds is quite a long time to have it on screen. So I'm going to make it 2 seconds. In here, I'm going to add my information of welcome to this knowledge check on Toy Story 4. And once I'm happy, I can click done up here or done down the bottom. That's not closing the entire resource off. It is just doing that particular interaction. I can now drag and drop it around and put it on screen where I want. If you had multiple labels or other bits of content, you also have send to the back and send to the front like you do on PowerPoint, where you can change the layers of what sits over what. So that's quite useful. You can copy it, delete it, edit it, and transform just lets you move it around. So if I click play now, that's obviously 2 seconds. So we get to this point of the video. And what I want to do now is test your knowledge on Pixar's history. So I am going to do a multiple choice question. So at 3 seconds, and I only want it to last for 5, but this time I'm going to get it to pause the video. In fact, I might make it only a second long, which doesn't seem very long, but because I'm pausing the video, it doesn't necessarily need to stay on screen after the fact. If I have it as a button, it will appear on screen just as a little finger. The student clicks the button and then it opens it up. If I choose poster, it will appear as an activity straight on the screen. So this is, what is the name of the lamp? So although I put that as a title, actually that needs to go into the question section. So I need to copy and paste that in the question. That's kind of for your reference. That is where the student will see the question. So I have available options. At the moment I have 2, but I can add more. So the first one is Lux or Junior. And again, is it Luxor or Luxo Junior? Again, if you're unsure, the power of Wikipedia. I said a bad word. Pixar lamp name, Luxo Junior. There we go. So just to make sure I get my question right, Luxo Junior is correct. I can also set it to give them tips or any feedback of getting it right. So message display if answer is selected. Add another in. Dave. Another option. It's kind of got to be done being an internet-y type person. Lampy McLampface. Because apparently that's a big thing on the internet. I'm going to have those 3 options. I'm not going to worry about the score range, but you can define a score for certain activities throughout it as well. Click done when you're done. Now, there are other options. Most of the time, you don't need to worry about those. Behavioral settings allows for a retry, show solution. You can randomize the answers so they appear differently. I never touch those. Actions on all correct. And again, if they get it all correct, you can jump to a time code. Again, so if they do a knowledge check on say you had, like I say you had that video, you might have, like I said, the time map, but if they start watching the video, what you could do is have a knowledge check. If they get it right, they miss that part of the lecture and go straight to the next bit. Thank you, Mystery. I missed that while doing this, but I'm going to leave all that as it is and click done. Now it's a bit squashed. Easy as getting my mouse to the corner, making it fit the screen how I want it to, and then moving my video on. So I'm now going to add a true or false question. This time I'm going to leave it as a button. So who plays the cowboy Woody? That's not a true or false question at all. What am I talking about? Tom Hanks plays the cowboy Woody.
Tom, we've got a question from Anne Warden. Can we make the box for the label text bigger or just make the text larger? I'm not sure we can.
The label, no. You've got. Is that anything in there? No, it's only got normal paragraph font. You can. I did Control B. There's no option there, but I've made it bold. And again, there's no way of. It's kind of got HTML code in there, but I can't get to it to make it bigger.
What about if you highlight the text and press Control++? I know that's normally Zoom, but I wonder if that.
No, yeah, that's just making my screen bigger.
Right. Well, it does make the text bigger.
not how we want it to.
No, it's annoying.
So the best I can do for you there is just making it bold. I didn't check I put the right answer. I think I did. I think it was on true. Yeah, so make sure you get the right answer right. So it is Tom Hanks plays it. So I'm going to put that down there. And again, I keep going through the video, adding sections. I'll do one last one. And what you might have noticed there, it popped up, is again, it is automatically doing closed captions as well. I am going to do a fill in the blanks and poster. pause the video. So again, I think 10 seconds is too long. So I'll just do 5. No, that's not long enough. 51. But pause the video with a poster. So fill in the missing words, and the way this one works, as you can see, it gives you examples here. So if I do star, Tom Hanks, star, plays Woody, John Rats. Now, what you can see here is if I do a line in between this, so John Ratzenberger used to play Cliff. I was going to say Norm, but it wasn't. Cliff in Cheers, colon. Sorry, it's not a. That's not an alternative answer. I want a clue. The colon is so it's just a, and then a star. Wallace Shawn plays a. Now this is where we could do dinosaur, but it could be plays. Well, it's because it's got a in there. It wouldn't be Rex, but let's do it that way in case people get it wrong. So alternative answers slash Rex slash Dino, and close that off. I'm going to save that. And there we go. So you go through the video and add stuff in. Now the last step is a summary task. Again, so to answer Cody's question, yes, you can shorten the video because you can choose it to start at a certain point. However, you can't use box or broadcast in it. So it's only YouTube or if you have access to the actual video file. I believe Vimeo videos work as well, but I'm not 100% sure. I've never used one of those. Jazz, what happens if the student doesn't answer? Does the video just continue or they click play and continue? If it's a hotspot one, if it's not a label and they don't click it, it'll just keep playing. They don't have to do it. They could just keep watching, but it's when they click the play, it will then pause it and allow them to do that task. Once I've created this, again, feel free to give it a go. Before I click save, is there any other activity from this list that I've talked about that people would like to see? I think the summary task does statements anyway, so I'm going to demonstrate that. Mike, are you able to? Would you like to step in very quickly on that one?
Yes, can do. So is there the possibility to check which students engaged with the activities of the videos and their answers were right or wrong? Yes. By default, H5P passes the grades from these activities to the gradebook. So you'll see the activity listed and you'll see how the student scored. So you've got an idea of how well they did. If you want to check whether students have actually opened the resource and worked on them, there's a really good. Can I just grab control of the screen just for a second, Tom?
Yeah.
There's a really good report in Moodle which we've been plugging this week because we've had a lot of questions about engagement. So I'm just going to go to my site first, and a site without students on it. Right, and I'll share this one. It's called the Course Participation Report, and it does exactly what it says on the tin. It shows you which students have participated in your course. So if you go to the cog icon in the top right-hand corner, go to More, and then Reports, you'll see the Course Participation Report. We're going to bubble some of these a bit higher up so they're easy to get to in time for September. So basically, you choose the activity from your course. So this could be a H5P activity, it could be your recorded lecture. You choose students from the list, and it will list all your students. There's only one on this. Oh, there's a few on the site. So list all the students, and then for this particular activity, so this could be the H5P activity, it will say yes or no and how many times they've accessed it. So it will just give you a quick indication of who has and who hasn't. You can chase students up as well with a message using the box at the bottom of the page. So yeah, nice and easy to check whether students are actually accessing. There we go. There you go, John. Back to you.
Thank you. Conscious of the time and the last 15 minutes, I'm not going to show it to you here, but the statement, if I go to the summary task, is the same as doing a statement. It's basically adding one in at the end. So what a statement does, choose the correct statement. So list of statements. So Pixar was bought by Apple, then sold to Disney. And the first statement is correct. The next statement, Pixar runs on gerbils. I can add another statement. Pixar only let people eat cheese. So the top statement is the true statement, the rest are false. I can add a next range of statements where I would say Pixar almost lost Toy Story 2 when someone ran the wrong code into the database. And I can keep adding as many statements that would stack as I want. And I'm having it display 3 seconds before the end of the video. So now if I click save and return to course, oh, title. Just actually, I missed this bit, the display options. For some of the bits you may want to do, you have display action bar and frame. Allow download is not to download the entire activity. What it does is it downloads the H5P package that you can then use within other sites. So basically, it's an easy way of moving things around. If you create it in one site, you can use it somewhere else as well. And I'll leave the copyright button on. In fact, I'll turn them all on. And lastly, under common module settings, I'm going to change it to make available but not shown on course page, just to demonstrate what Mike was talking about, that knowledge check idea going forward. So at the moment, if I was to change to a student view, my activity suddenly disappears. It's not there. What I'm going to do is show you how we can make it appear for the students and so that they can still use it. I'm going to turn my editing back on. I'm going to go into the activity. He says, did anyone forget to feed the Moodle gerbils last night? So it seems quite large here. It will get slightly smaller when we use it in another way. So the reuse is the copyright information. Sorry, no, it's not reuse, is to download the H5P file. Rights of use, sorry, is the copyright information I typed in. And what I want is embed. I'm going to copy that code there. Go back to my Moodle site. And again, I am going through this quite quickly, but again, if you need help with this, please do speak to us or your online course developer who should be able to help with this sort of thing. I'm going to choose a book. Call it lecture. Ooh. Save and display. Save that, and it'll create the book with our table of contents. Could you just link to the Moodle URL, or does that not? Yes, you could link to the Moodle URL, and they'll be able to go to it. What I'm going to do is embed it in the flow of text, so they're not jumping in and around different activities. So by dropping down the content and going to the HTML embedder, just going to paste in the code and save that. So it puts the activity inside of that, and then I can add other activities or just more videos or text, links to journals. So if I, again, go back to the main site, I am going to change myself to be a student, switch role to student. So again, the student will see that there is a lecture book to go through, but they can't see my H5P activity. They're going to enter the lecture. They're going to read the text. They're going to do whatever I maybe watch the first welcome video that I've embedded. When they go through to the next page or clicked on the menu, they get the activity. It is loading. There we go. And so when they watch through this, again, I'll turn it down for now. Welcome to college. So, welcome to the video which I put on there. The name of the lamp is Luxo Junior, and I'll check that. Congratulations, you know your Pixar history. So that's the feedback I put in. They get it right. The video starts again automatically. Click the activity. Tom plays it. Yeah, that's true. Check that. Now, again, if we go back to answer that question, because it'll pause the video when they click it, but if they don't, it just stays on screen for those 2 seconds and then will disappear. He says, there you go. Yeah, it's disappeared after the predefined amount of time. So it goes through the video, gets to the activity. Tom Hanks plays Woody. John Ratzenberger plays Ham, but I've got information used to play Cliff in Cheers, so there's a little bit of a signposting if they want to do more research on it. And Wallace Shawn plays a dino. Check. Oh, and it's case sensitive apparently, so because I did a big O rather than a little O, it's wrong. If I show the solution, it'll show them the answer and they'll go, that was right. And that's where it's kind of it's not going to be used as a summative exercise. It is just formative. Get through to the end. And there's the summary. So choose the correct statement. Pixar was bought by Apple and sold to Disney. Pixar almost lost Toy Story 2. And then they get a full summary of all their answers and their score. And they can submit their answers as well when they're happy. It should automatically capture that as well, but they can submit it through to you as well. So that is kind of our whistle-stop overview this morning of H5P. As I say, it does have a whole load. It's got 43 different types of resource. Hopefully, though, that you can see that I created that in the space of sort of 25-30 minutes. And again, if I was doing it without talking about doing it, I could have done that in 4 or 5 minutes and just had a quick activity check ready to go and embed into my site. Anything else you'd like to add, Mike?
Just the help guides on the H5P site and within Moodle feature tutorials, including media, so that they're very, very easy to follow, step by step, with the media you need to create some example resources. So have a look at those if you're interested in giving those a try.
The last bit I'd like to pick up from Hannah, I kind of answered the question, but I'm going to clarify a little bit, where she says, can you link to a Moodle URL, or does that not work? So you can embed or link, it's up to you. That's quite true. The bit to say is what you can't do, depending on levels of access, is say you make it in the library development site, but then you go and put it on Introduction to Journalism. If the students are not enrolled on that library induction site, they won't be able to use it, whether they click the link or whether it's embedded. You'll see it working because you are on both sites. They won't because they are not. So that's where the option for you for download, and again, the bar's gone when it's embedded, but you did see that there was that download option. You would download the H5P little package, and then when you create a new H5P package, and if I do that very quickly, if I share the screen one last time, just to show that when you are creating a new package, that's because I'm a student, there we go. That's why I couldn't see it. But yeah, add an activity or resource, H5P. When I'm creating that, we did create content, so there is upload. So if you've got a H5P file, you just choose upload a file, and then as you would do to an email, you find the H5P activity, add it in, and save, and away you go. So even if you create it in a site that a student doesn't have access to, you can very easily transfer it and move it around using that upload option. Why do we see several Toy Story activities within topic 1? Because people have been following along. So as people have been making the activity with us today, everyone's done a different one. So my one is the Pixar-TS4. Other people have done Toy Story 4. Does import also work for moving H5P? Yes, I think so.
I believe so as well, yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any other questions? And again, Scott, if you want to try it, just give us a shout and we can help out with that as well if we can. That's quite all right. Yeah, so this is just, that's it. This site is here for people to have a play with. It's essentially a sandpit where you could follow along. If you do get any other questions when you're using H5P later on, please do drop us an email. Please email eLearn, and someone in the team should be able to help. They'll probably pass you to either Mike or myself anyway. Thank you very much for everyone attending today. Enjoy the rest of the festival. Enjoy the rest of today, and join us for the content capture information.
Oh, one thing to add as well. Please, we've now got a feedback page for the festival. If you could, if I can find it, could you please leave some feedback if you so we can improve next year? And the link is available there. Thank you very much.
Do you want to stop the recording?
Yes.